You are listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 118. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Welcome, Kimberly Rayburn, to the podcast, Inspired Caring.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for inviting me on.
I'm delighted that you can be here. So you are a speaker, you have a TED Talk, you are an impactful coach in my life and mentor and friend to me. And will you just share a little bit about what your background is and how you came to be sitting in front of me today and talking about breathwork?
Oh man, it's really just one of the roads that look like this. Like I guess most of us probably have a similar, windy road to get where we are. I guess the best place to start would be I started speaking in 2016 after I had been drugged and raped and robbed, and I really tackled my healing very aggressively. And I knew it was something that I wanted to share with others to help them heal. So in that journey, in that process, I met my husband. And because I was a new and up and coming speaker and I was learning how to speak, and I met him, and fast forward several years later, we started dating. I was able to do my TED Talk, and I talk a lot about play and play being serious business, and I'm able to weave in a message of hope with what I've been through. But then my husband and I got married, and we joined a coaching business so that we were learning a lot about some new things we wanted to do with our own business. So a couple times a year in this group, they have what's called family vacation, which is a retreat that we get together as a group. We put all the business stuff on the shelf and we just do this work. Because I'm sure you could agree, and I know you well, that we both agree that if you're not doing this work, none of this work matters.
Right.
So it's really taking time to pause and drop into yourself and really tap into what's there, what needs to be mined, what needs to be uprooted, what needs to be replaced. So in February, going on a couple years ago, we were at one of these retreats, and they're always different activities. And we heard there was going to be a breath worker. And I thought, well, what's that? And the few people who had done it were like, oh, it's hard. Just you wait. Oh my gosh. So I went into it with high expectations and surrendered to whatever was going to happen. So I'm in a room of 8 people, and one thing about me, and I try not to talk in so many absolutes anymore, but I have a tendency to just be all in, hot or cold, black or white. And I was like, I'm just going full throttle in this whole breathwork thing and see what happens. And I went in and I was breathing heavy and I was so deep into the experience. And I won't go through all of it, but the most pivotal thing for me was I had this vision of a lioness, and then this lioness morphed into me. And I felt like the old me was just being like crucified, and this new lioness of me was emerging. And I felt like I was being called, to step into this. And it was, I can truly say probably one of the most pivotal moments of my life. And it's funny because a lot of times when we talk about pivotal moments of our lives, sometimes they could be tragedies or traumatic things that have happened. This was a very positive pivotal moment. of my life. And I got out of it. It was a 2-hour experience. I got out of there thinking, everybody needs to do breath work. Everybody's got to do this. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I kid you not, as my husband, within 3 weeks, I flew to Spain to get certified as soon as possible, because I'm just so driven to bring this gift, bring this healing modality to everyone in the world. I want to serve everyone with their own breath.
That's amazing, because we think we're breathing. But today I was thinking about you because I was getting dressed and I was, rushing, and I realized I was literally holding my breath. But there's a difference, between like breathing just through your tasks and the breath work that we're talking about, this like deeper practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And you actually can marry the two together. Some just day-to-day lifestyle breathing practices. That's important. At the beginning of my classes, I like to, and sometimes at the end, I like to give people a couple tips that they could take with them, because the experience I guide them through is not something you can do every day. I mean, if you have all the time in the world, you sure, but most of us don't have all the time in the world to just focus on our breath for 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Right.
So yes, my breathwork classes, my experiences are very different than oftentimes what people would even expect. I have had so many people come into my classes. In fact, one story in particular, a guy came after lifting. He was coming from the gym to the studio next door to do breath work. And at the end, I always ask for shares if anyone wanted to, share about their experience. And he goes, whoa. And this is like a gym guy, he's like, I thought I was just coming in here for like a peaceful relaxation, this relaxing meditation. Some people come in thinking it's going to be like a meditation, which in some ways it is, or like a sound bath where you're just there to receive. And it is not. It is called somatic breath work because you are bringing your whole body into it. It is a very intentional, very, very intentional meditation, because there's a reason they call it breath work. Breath work.
Because you're working.
Yeah, not breath rest, not breath. No, it is breath work. Right. But at the same time, I don't like to scare people. I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? Can I do it? No. If we're having a conversation, you're really, really good at it. You've been doing it your whole life.
Right. And you've breathed people of all ages.
Yes. Yes.
So
Every
abilities
from teens to people in their 80s. I mean, I've really breathed them all, and it's for everyone. It is. And actually my favorite people to breathe are the people who've never done it before. That's a lot of fun, because they don't really know what they're getting themselves into, but they have enough of an open heart and open mind to be like, okay, I'm gonna dip my toe in this, see how it is. And it's always just so fun hearing what they have to say after.
Yeah. And because some of the experiences are so visually present and real, like your lioness experience. And I have had some really super powerful experiences, because I've had the privilege 3 times of breathing with you. We have more upcoming on the books. I'm so excited about. Are people like, I didn't take anything, no plant medicine, no, psychotic is the word that's coming to mind, but that's not it. What's the word?
Psychedelic,
Right? So like people are having this experience without taking anything, right?
Yes, yes. And what I tell people in my classes is, what the feedback I get back probably most often is it's most equivalent to a mushroom trip. In fact, I had a girl in a class just a month ago, and she was young. She was in her mid-20s, I'd say. And she said, I've been trying a lot of she just straight up said it. I've been trying a lot of drugs and a lot of psychedelics. Sure. She said, and I haven't, my understanding based on what her share was she was looking for something within. She was trying to connect with herself. So she wasn't just taking it to party. It seemed like she was trying to connect with her higher self. And she said, and they could never take me to those places. She said, doing this breath work was a similar physical feeling and visual feeling. She said, but I felt so much more connected. This is what I've been looking for.
Oh, that's so powerful, because that's really
Mm.
what our souls are seeking, or is a connection,
Yeah.
with people. So what is happening in our bodies that is allowing our minds to go there or get to that place? And I just would like to interject that, if people are exploring different modalities, and they're doing it in a safe way, and they're doing it in places with practitioners that are involved, like I just think, as we're here bumbling along the earth, it's like whatever works for somebody. I just really want, it's fine, I just want to introduce that this is another way, this is another route, another path, another modality, and it's so accessible to people through you. And so what's happening in our body? Like, why does our brain do that?
Well, we're hyperoxygenating our body. We're alkalizing our blood. When we do breath holds, we're raising our CO2 tolerance. And all of this just sounds like science, like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I always encourage people, one thing when you're doing breath work is I breathe people in rounds, which but for your audience out there, I breathe in rounds. So it'll be, 4 to 6 minutes of rhythmic breathing, followed by a breath hold, followed by some bliss out time before we do it all over again. And then I change the intensity and the speed and all of that. And usually in the first round, what's happening in the body, especially for people who have not done this before, is it's harder for them to get out of their mind. They're like, am I doing this right? Am I doing? Because there are several different techniques that I employ on a breathwork journey, including a nose mouth breath. When you breathe in through the nose, pulling from your diaphragm and rising to the lungs, and then ultimately out the mouth, and breathe out the mouth. What that does is that creates a sense of safety and groundedness. So I always like to start people on a journey where you're like, and that whole first round is really to get them into that place of feeling comfortable, of feeling like, you know what? Okay, this is not as hard as I thought it was. I do have this. I got this. And another reason I do that is it helps them disconnect with their mind. Because inevitably that first round, you're transitioning from a busy life to trying to get to breath work. And it's like
Right.
sometimes that can be a hard pivot. So that's why I like to kind of ease people into the experience. Because if you take your focus away from your mind and shift it to your breath, ultimately your breath and your body will take over, because it is a full body experience. It is not a mind experience, it's a body experience. So that
Yeah.
first round, I really like to create that groundedness. And also when you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, what that does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And for those of you who don't know, our automatic nervous system is two parts: the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight when we get stressed or busy, and then there's the parasympathetic, which is rest, restore, digest. And in a perfect world, the way it's supposed to operate is when we get activated, when we get stressed, the parasympathetic is then supposed to ultimately take over and bring this back down. And in a perfect world, these should be dancing together, creating, peace and normalcy in our life. However,
Right.
in today's day and age and the busyness and all the things we have to do and social media and pressure, blah, 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 this gets higher, 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 our sympathetic, and our parasympathetic can never catch up.
Oh,
So we never achieve that state of bringing this back down and letting the parasympathetic take over.
yeah.
And when we do that nose mouth breath, we are sending signals to our brain for the parasympathetic nervous system to take over, which takes you into that place of rest, restore, digest.
Mm.
And once I have that in people, that's when I feel I have permission and safety to take them deeper into their journey, take them into some more intensity. Which in that case, if you don't want me sharing, because you said what's happening to your body, so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, another breath I love employing is a circular connected breath. That is all mouth, mouth. So, and what that does is it helps people connect with their emotions. Okay. Think about if someone is very upset and they're crying, how do they cry?
Right.
So by taking them to that circular connected breath, it helps them connect deeper to their self, their heart space, their emotions.
It
And then,
almost feels like it allows them to connect with it so that it can be cleansed.
yes, oh gosh, I feel like breath work is an emotional cleansing.
Mm.
Breath work, because you're not only emotionally and mentally cleansing, but also you're getting rid of stale energy and stale oxygen. People don't realize that in our gut, in our diaphragm, we have so much stuck oxygen because we generally aren't breathing full breaths throughout our day. We tend to breathe more shallow. So by activating that circular connected, or really all of the breaths, you're pulling deep from your gut, you're shaking up that stale energy, you're bringing it up, you're getting it out, and you're breathing in new, fresh energy and oxygen.
Well, and I'm feeling from my own experience, like you have this incredible emotional experience, this incredible physical experience, and then it kind of seemed, for me, it unlocked my mind to what could be possible.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I feel, in my experience at least, and this might be different for everyone, which I'll get to that point in a minute. But when we do breath holds, we pause the breath to pause the mind. And often what I see in breath holds, including in myself when I do my own breath work, it's in the breath hold that I enter the void, the empty
Mhm.
space. And in that empty space, it's like, oh, wow, that's when things start downloading and dropping in, and you start to see what's possible. And it's like, whoa, because you've cleared out all the noise, you've created white space.
So it's such a powerful place for people to experience, because I think there's so few opportunities in our life where we can feel supported to that's like where the shadowy stuff can start to really push away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I'll speak for myself. It's hard to get into that space of nothingness. As a
Mhm.
Christian, the Bible says, be still and know. And we all walk around, we see things in TJ Maxx and Ross, things for your house that say, be still and know that and people buy these things and it sounds great. And yes, it's a Bible verse, but how many people truly understand what it means to be still and know?
Right.
And what I find in my own personal Christian practice, the hardest part for me is that be stilling and know.
Yeah.
So for me, breath work takes me to that place where I can connect with God deeper and I could get into that be still and know place.
Yeah. So good. Did I interrupt you on what's happening in the body, or did we come full circle on that?
I mean, I'll say two more things because
Okay.
honestly, we could talk 5, 6 hours about what's happening in the body and still not cover it all. So I'll
Right.
just mention two more things as I was going through the different breaths. One of the breaths that I like to use is using a nose breath. And what that does is it's kind of the opposite of that nose mouth. And I probably just snotted all over. And I tell people during class, like I give them a tissue and I'm like, look, you're just going to snot. You're going to get messy. Be willing to get messy. As my coach, Dr. Aaron says, he says, they don't clean up the baby until you have the baby, until you birth the baby. So just snot, get messy. I give everyone an eye mask. They can't even see each other. It's not like I see snot all the time. But anyway, when you do that nose breath, what that does is it stirs up energy. It stirs up chi. Think about a bull in a rodeo when it's right before it's ready to buck or whatever they call it. How is it breathing?
Yeah.
It's stirring up that energy, stirring up that energy. So as I take people on this journey, we get to a point after, I don't want to give it all away, but after, certain parts of the journey, I want to create energy. I want to create that chi and help them feel empowered, like I got this.
Mhm.
And a nose breath is a great way to do that. And the last thing I'll say is with breath holds, which are my personal favorite. When we pause our breath, we don't actually, and you know this, we don't hold our breath with full lungs. People think, oh, breath hold. They think of like jumping into a pool. They think, and we don't. I mean, some breath workers do, and that's fine. It's all well and good. There's different benefits for that. But what I like to do is and pause with no air in the breath. And when we do that, we activate or we increase our CO2 tolerance, which are stem cells, which everyone knows, the stem cells are the magic juice of the body. They hide out in our bone marrow. And they hide out in our bone marrow because stem cells hate oxygen. So that's why they're tucked away in our bone marrow. When we do a breath hold with no air in our lungs, we increase our CO2 tolerance, which awakens our stem cells, and it sends healing to the places in our body that we need healing. Our body is a self-healing machine. It knows what's up next for our healing. That could be physical, that could be emotional, that could be spiritual, mental, fill in the blank. But I had someone in a class the other day, and she went into the class not really wanting to do it. And she will say so herself. She's like, I was skeptical. I was just like, well, I guess I'm here. This is what I'm going to do. She said, so I went for it. And I was curious what her experience was as we were going through it. I didn't know if she was really into it or not. And we're talking about someone who suffers from severe plantar fasciitis. She limps all the time. She wears lidocaine patches on her feet because her feet hurt so bad. She's just in constant pain. And after class, she goes, I'm a believer. You got me. She said, this is the first time, and I can't tell you how long, I have no pain. And then the next morning, she sought me out. She's like, I want to let you know I still am pain-free. I can't believe it.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
How often can people do this? Is this like a daily thing? Is this like a once a week thing? Because I mean, there is a lot of science behind it, and it does like the benefits of it are so powerful. How often could people do this practice?
They could do it as often as possible. There's no such thing as doing too much breath work. It's really a matter of how much time do you have? Even me as a breath worker, I can't always get to breath work every day. But if I could at least dedicate 10 or 15 minutes or like one round to myself as my own self-care, that's good. In my classes, when I take people through this like 2-hour journey, not all of that is breathing, but this 2-hour journey, that's kind of like spring cleaning. That's kind of the deep cleaning. I feel like the other is still cleaning and cleansing and all that, but I feel like it's more maintenance.
Got it. Now, we have done virtual sessions. And so how often are you doing what? Like, how do people, they can do this either in person in your neck of the woods or virtually, right?
Yes, virtually and my neck of the woods and not. I'm actually my big dream for next year is because I've moved so much, because I travel so much, I know people in a lot of places. And so my goal next year is to actually take the show on the road, so to speak, and to visit different cities and be able to bring people together, because there's something magical about the collective coherence that increases in a room when you're all breathing together. And I do virtuals, yes. Probably about one introductory one a month and one advanced one. I would like to get more on the calendar for that. I have one friend who she lives in New York actually, and she wanted me to breathe her and her friends. So it was a private session, a private group session, but it was just for her and her friends.
Yes.
And of course, one-on-ones, of course.
Right. And then you've done some corporate events too.
Yes, corporate events are so fun. And I mean, they're all fun. Don't get me wrong, they're all fun.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about corporate events is the attendees, the people who are there at their corporate retreat or whatever, they don't know what they're getting into. They're being paid, they have to do it. They are not choosing to buy a ticket to one of my events saying, oh, let's try this out, or I love breath work, or no, they have no idea. They're like, well, guess I got to do this.
At that one, we have breath work, whatever that is.
Exactly. I love it. It's so much fun because people are just clueless so often. Like, I don't know why I'm here.
Right.
Mhm.
So it
And
ended
seeing
being,
people break down.
yeah.
Like there was a guy recently who did not want to be there, young guy, and didn't know what breathwork was, just kind of really not in the personal development space at all. He was there because his wife wanted to be there. So he was just there for that reason. And kind of, you know, a manly man, even though I don't like to use that word because it kind of sounds a little toxic. Um, but he went through the experience, and I applaud him for even going there, for doing the work. I couldn't believe it. At the end of class, he was the first one to want to share, and he just had tears streaming down his face. Like
Mm.
Mr. CrossFit himself was just like, I just realized the love I have for my wife, and so to see people make this transformation, and to see people do literally a 180 in their energetic and in their attitude and in their state is crazy.
Well, and it's such a reminder that the rates of depression and anxiety and the burdens that people are feeling culturally for us are just so heavy. They're so heavy. And this is such a safe space to explore our oneness with ourself, really laying all of those things down and just connecting. And it has a lasting impact, a transformational lasting impact, even just one session, I believe. I mean, when
Yeah.
we had our first round together in your home at one of the What If weekends, which is amazing that you provide that opportunity. I felt like I had like a glow from it almost for weeks afterwards. Right?
It is fun watching people, because I've seen that. I've seen people physically transform. You know that in the Bible, when Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration, and he, like, I feel like people have those type of experiences where they go into it with a certain energetic, or a lot of people suffer from anxiety and trauma and PTSD and depression. I have a lot of that come to my classes, a lot of trauma based stuff, and
Mhm.
things people are working through. And to see the release, to see the lightness, to see the letting go of, the learning to receive, you can truly, like you said, I can physically see it all over people. And it's
Yes.
like, wow.
Yeah. And if you are in a group with other people, because I have done some virtual sessions by myself in my home and then in a group environment, it really is a great way to connect with other people on a super real level. I think we get stuck at these very superficial, logistical, tactical levels, and this helps us connect on a more soul level. Um,
Yeah.
which is so powerful. I think it's part of what we're missing in humanity now.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And I think I try and, when you're doing breath work, it requires, as you know, a lot of trust, a lot of vulnerability. Because anyone who didn't know what I was doing and came up to my breathwork studio here and saw a bunch of people on the ground, like, it would look weird. It would look weird. So I can, it does create this special connection with people, because you're creating this very vulnerable space. And it's my job as the guide to create safety before even going into it. Safety is huge. You have to create that safe container. And me as the playgirl, I try and create this safe, sacred container by just having fun with it. Which sounds kind of silly. But it's like I tell people, hey, look, let's just get weird. All right, let's get weird together. You're gonna get weird. You're gonna have snot all over. Your eyelashes are gonna fall off. Like, let's just get. You're gonna sweat. You're gonna be cold. You're gonna scream. You're gonna roar. You might be having an orgasm. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get weird. Like, we're all getting weird together, myself included. Just because I'm guiding doesn't mean I'm not getting into it with you. Oh, I am.
It's very physical for you. I mean, you're not touching anybody. Let's be super clear. You are not touching anybody. But for you, because you are such a conduit of energy, like it is very, and you're so passionate, it is very physical for you.
It actually is. I'm done a class and I'm just like sweating. And to your point about touching, when I first began practicing, I did not touch people. But what I've been learning over the past 6 months, especially for people who are nervous, that adding an element of touch can really bring people to a state that they need of groundedness. And because there was one girl I breathed maybe 3 months ago, and prior to me, she had one breathwork experience and it was very traumatic because the practitioner did not tell her what to expect. So when her hands were tingling and cramping, she thought something was wrong and she panicked, which actually that's very normal to feel those things. So, but she was going to give it a shot with me again. She was going to trust me and go there. And I was like, okay, but I'm happy I had that context, that background, so that I could support her during the class. And she started breathing and she was getting the claw hands. Sometimes she'll get like claw hands. And again, that's totally normal. And I could just sense in her energy that she was starting to get a little panicky. So being able to go and put my head, because you're laying down during the practice, which and put my head next to her head and just cradle her head and just breathe with her and let her know you're okay, you are safe. So I've started adding that into my classes, and I find that to be very supportive of people who are a little nervous or on the fence, or struggle with anxiety a lot, that the element of touch helps bring them to a safe place.
And
Now,
you
some
said,
people, I give people permission. I say, please let me know if you do not want to be touched. Please let me know. And I had one girl that said, please don't touch me. I want to go so deep in it. Whatever I'm feeling, I want to feel by myself. So it's good to know. Some people love the touch aspect. Some people don't want to be touched, and both are great.
well, just similar to yoga, right? Sometimes we have yoga instructors who are, it's more interactive and yeah. So
Yep.
that totally makes sense to me. And you do such a great job of in any environment, right? Either virtually or one-on-one in a room or in these corporate experiences. I think you create such a safe container. This is one of your superpowers very quickly that people, or I witnessed that as a superpower with you, that you can create a very safe space, very connected very quickly for people so that they do get the most out of the experience.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for witnessing me in that space. And it's something that I guess it's just a God thing, a God gift.
Mhm.
And maybe it's because I just crave so deeply for people to have these transformative experiences that I just, I just pour so much of myself into it and I allow myself to get vulnerable and cry and share. And I think, as the guide, if I'm willing to model total surrender, total vulnerability, then I guess, and just be playful too, give people, a chance to chuckle. It just creates that. So thank you for holding that reflection.
Yeah. And I love your sense of adventure and travel, and that you are, wherever duty calls, you are willing to consider making that trip for people. As
Yeah,
yeah,
that was really cool in Ireland. Yeah, I was like, I just put it out in the universe. I'm like, I don't know how, but I am going to guide these people through a breathwork experience. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to do it in the castle. And sure enough, we were able to do it in the castle.
Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. That is so incredible. What can people do like right now, today, in this moment? Okay, they're starting to get a little energized and fired up by Kimberly and her energy and playfulness, and they are holding their breath. What should they be doing right now in this moment to help
Mhm.
reap some of the benefits of the
Yeah.
oxygenation and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think if people can start off honestly by just becoming aware of their breath without judging it. And the without judgment part is the hardest part. If you were to just set a timer on your phone for 60 seconds and just feel into, like, just become aware of your breath. Are you breathing through your chest? Are you breathing in through your tummy? Are you breathing in through your nose or your mouth? Are your breaths very deep or are they shallow? And just taking 60 seconds to become aware of your breath, not judging it, just, I'm breathing shallow today. Ah, I'm breathing more out of my mouth, whatever the case may be. So, step one, just becoming aware, it brings you back to self and mindfulness. And it's amazing that it does kind of shift your state, even though you're not doing anything fancy. You're just bringing mindfulness to the only true addiction, your breath.
Mhm.
And then, if people, like I was telling you earlier about the parasympathetic and sympathetic, um, uh, with all the demands on life, if they really want to activate that parasympathetic nervous system and have it take over so that they feel that sense of relaxation and just more groundedness, I guess is a good way of saying it. You could look it up online, and there's like the box breath. There's the 4-4-4-4 breath, which is the box breath. There's a 4-7-8 breath. There's a this breath. There's a that, and there's all these different counts. And when you look up breath work online, it can be very confusing because there's so many different techniques, all of which are wonderful, but there's so many of them. And it's like, oh, which one am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it right?
Right.
And what I like to tell people at the end of the day, if you're doing that, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, and as long as your exhales are longer than your inhales, you're starting to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Not equal parts. So just for however long you can breathe out, but exhales longer than the inhales.
Okay. Should we be holding at the top or bottom or
Nope. Nope.
not
No.
necessarily?
Yeah. That's the next lesson.
Okay. 2.0. Well, I think this is amazing. How do people find you if they're like, yes, let's do this thing, or they want to connect with you or learn more? Where can they find you?
The easiest way to find me is my website, which is thebreathworkgirl.com. So www.thebreathworkgirl.com. From there, you can find, my email address. You can contact me. You'll find my social Instagram, Adventures of Kimberly Faith. You can find my YouTube there, my TED Talk, my classes, my world tour, my soon to be
Yes.
no.
Yes.
So you'll find pretty much the central hub for all the ways to find me and track me down would be thebreathworkgirl.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I can feel the energetic from this episode really spreading. Okay.
I feel the energy with our interaction, like being able to share and serve your people and just learning a couple things about breath. Like I hope their hearts were touched. They learn a couple things and they can employ some simple strategies.
I'm confident of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.